Welcome to Kicks Minivans, the podcast for dads, especially the ones that love sneakers. I'm your host, KG. However you're watching and listening, man, we're glad you're here. Thanks for tuning in for this week's episode. Kicks Minivans exists to help men win in marriage and parenting. Man, we are passionate about helping you get to your healthiest spot for the sake of you, your family, your wife and your kids, the community around you, and the world at large, man. I think the more healthier men we have in this world, the better place the world will be. And that's exactly what our sponsor, N8 Solutions, is passionate about as well. Nate is a great leader and leadership coach. He specializes and prioritizes in helping men unleash the best from within. And so if you're in a spot where you're trying to figure out what's next, what's my purpose, why am I here, what is my calling, what am I supposed to be doing with my life, right? Like, we've all asked that. Nate is a great resource to have, to tap into, to lean into, to have a conversation with, where he can help you untangle some of those thoughts and try to figure out what your next step is. He specializes, like I said, in helping people unleash the best from within. And so if you're in an area where, hey, you're trying to figure some things out, you're feeling kind of stuck in life, Nate is a great resource. I encourage you, go over to n8leader.com, book a free consultation with him. He's not pushy, he's not salesy. He just wants to help you win, just like we want to help you win. And he can do just that in a much more intimate, one-on-one way, where you could really get some feedback going on for what you specifically have happening in your life right now. Again, that's n8leader.com. Book a free consultation with Nate today. Well, this is a first for Kicks and Minivans. Today we got not one but two people that we are interviewing at the same time, Chad and Justin. They co-host another fatherhood podcast called The Dad Report. And so I had the privilege of joining them on theirs. They had me on pre-launch of Kicks and Minivans. They had me on a couple weeks before we kicked things off. And so was excited to be able to bring them on to the Kicks and Minivans podcast. So we're talking all things fatherhood today, man. It would just hope this message in this episode is an encouragement to you wherever you're at in the fatherhood spectrum. Justin's kind of where I am. You know, he's got a little one running around in his house, but Chad's the vet, man. Chad's a veteran. He's been around the block, man. He's got some older kids, and so really excited for what these two bring to the table together on their podcast, and excited that the two of them could join us for this week's episode of Kicks and Minivans. Let's jump right in. Welcome, Justin and Chad. Thanks for joining us on Kicks and Minivans.
Hey, Kevin.
Thanks for having us. This is a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys had me on the Dad Report a couple weeks before we launched Kicks and Minivans, and was definitely excited to have you guys come join us for this one. So give us a brief intro of you. Tell us about yourself, your family. We'll go alphabetical order, so we'll go Chad.
All right. First. So my name is Chad, and yeah, Kevin, thanks for having us again. So I am married for 21 years, and I have two boys, 17 and 11. And we, from the time my oldest was in like fourth grade is when we started, been a homeschool family. And I got my oldest, he's graduated now, so that is like, awesome. And then my younger one just started he started middle school this year, so super excited about that. And yeah, man, that's pretty much it. Happily married, raising my boys, and just loving hanging out with them right now. So that's where I'm at.
That's great. Justin, tell us a little about you.
Yeah, I'm Justin. Again, Kevin, thanks, bro, for having us on here. Still waiting for some of our spin-off conversations from the Dad Report to catch on, you know what I'm saying? But I've been married for 3 years. Before in October. That math can be rough at times. And then I have one kiddo, one daughter. She'll be 2 in May, so just about a month away now. And can't say anything to schooling or graduation because we're just now diving into it. My wife works from home, which is awesome, but also a lot. and we're excited for preschool to start up in the next 5-ish months. That next kind of season. So, yeah.
Nice. Starting her at 2 in preschool, huh?
My wife is ready.
I get that. I can feel that.
She's like, I need some time.
We're starting our
It won't
3-year-old
be
in
all day.
preschool. We're starting our 3-year-old in preschool this fall. And part of me's like, yeah, he could have started. He could have started sooner. But, you know, happy to have him home, but also excited for him to get that experience as well. So, this is Kicks and Minivans. So let's talk sneakers for a second. What's your favorite pair of sneakers you own? What do you guys enjoy rocking?
Justin, why don't you go first on this one?
I mean,
we'll go the opposite this time.
Yeah, I'm a Vans guy. I mean, I've got a pair of old schools. I don't have them up here with me. They are ripping, they're tearing. In fact, I think we talked about this when you were on, Kevin. I mean, I wear them almost every single day. But basically, any pair of Vans. I mean, I'm comfy with whatever. I did bring a pair, so these are a new shoe that Vans put out in the last like 6 months. They look kind of like Jordans. I'm still breaking them in. Vans has a weird thing for me where they're not always comfy across the bridge of my foot. And these
I've
make me
noticed
sweat.
that too. Yeah.
Yeah, but once you break them in, because my old schools were that way, and then I broke them in, and they're like fantastic. But those are I think they're the Lowlands is what they're called. It's like they're the Lowlands CCs or the Cortland CCs or something like that. But yeah, man, those are comfy. And then I brought one more pair. These are a pair of Adidas I got for half off. The all whites we were just talking about. Unfortunately, I had a pair of jeans bleed some blue. So
man.
yeah, but
ruin the ton of them.
Right. It is what it is.
So, guys, this might be a very short podcast because I have a confession to make on a couple levels. So, first of all, I do enjoy Vans. I have a couple pair. I wear them into the ground. As we were talking about earlier before we started recording, I'm much more of a kind of utility guy, right? I wear shoes. I have a few pair of really nice shoes. Like I have a pair of boots that's a really nice pair, but I wear them, right? So they're not sitting on a shelf, anything like that. And I gotta say, Kevin, I was listening to a couple of your episodes recently, and I went back and listened to your pilot again, and I gotta tell you, man, like, we are not a minivan family either. So I feel like I'm striking out here.
Oh, that's all right. You know, you don't have to drive a minivan. You don't have to own Jordans. We just ask you to be yourself on here. That's what we appreciate. But, you know, I'm at a place in life where the anti-minivans comments hurts me like just as much as the sneaker ones do. Like I'm at that point in life. Like I love my minivan that much.
Man, I don't think Chad's against your minivan. He's just saying he personally doesn't rock it.
Well, and I will tell you, I'm very laissez-faire, right? My wife, though, she's like, nope, not going to happen in this household, right? So I mentioned to her, you know, kind of how you were, you know, selling your wife on the minivan and that kind of stuff, you know, from that episode. And she's like, yeah, nope. So
everyone's against it, so they drive it.
That's what I've heard.
Everyone's against it, so they have it. Till they own one, it's.
Now she did say that, hey, if somebody is gonna come and gift me with the new Honda Odyssey, you know, I'll take it. But yeah, so
if someone hands me a $30,000 vehicle for free, I guess I'll take that. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, do you have a dream pair of shoes or a dream minivan that you would love to own one day?
I don't think a Toyota Tacoma counts as a dream minivan.
Not quite that, but
I mean, I'd love a pair of J's. I don't have any in particular. They're just they're popular. I mean, they've always been popular, I guess, but they look good, and so they're
just any pair of J's.
I mean, I'd like them to be a color that I can wear. There's some colors where I'm like, that's cool, I guess, but I'm not putting that on my feet. So probably like a standard like black. Honestly, the yellow ones I've seen look really good. I
Okay.
like those like. Is Mustang yellow? Does that make sense when I say it?
I feel like there's different shades of yellow in Mustangs.
That was a
But
no.
there's some. There's not.
Okay. Okay. There's just
That's a no.
but I feel like Kevin, when I say there's a yellow pair of J's that are really popular right now, or at least in the last couple of months, like you know what I'm talking about.
I feel like if I had to guess, it's probably the Jordan 1 Taxis.
Yes, there you go.
Which is the
Yep.
pair that I got those. I love those, man. I love those ones. And I had the Jordan 4 Lightnings, which is like the all yellow ones with a
Okay.
little pop of gray and white in them. And I actually sold those recently. They just weren't that comfortable and just ended up not wearing them that often. But yeah, the Jordan 1 Taxis are super dope. They're pretty popular right now because they just came out in September, I think.
Yeah.
So you're still seeing those float around the resale
There's a
resale
couple
market.
of pastors and youth pastors that I follow that have been rocking them, and I'm like, man.
Yeah, they're nice, man. Anytime you have that black boxing with the different colors inside, man, that's always a winner on the Jordan 1. Well, hey, man, really excited to have you guys on here, talk fatherhood, talk being a dad. So, obviously, you guys have been running the Dad Report. You're finishing up your second season of it, correct?
Chad, are we finishing our second season? Is that
or
what I
you're
was just told?
I guess we are now, Justin.
Wow, it was prophetic.
That's a... All right, so wow, man, talk about putting
I
your
apologize
foot in
to
your
your
mouth.
listeners.
No, it's totally cool. So
You're good, you're good.
just so you know, like we've slowed down just a little bit, and we're not, maybe you could say we're, we ad lib a little bit more than we used to. And we had several in the hopper. When you start a podcast, you want to get some out there, so
Yeah.
that way you're not kind of, feeling the pressure to churn one out every week. And we've burned through some of those, and we just between Justin and myself, we've just gotten really busy.
It's been a busy season. This starting off this
So.
year, and it to agree with Chad there. We came into season 2, I think 6 deep in the hopper, and then tried to kind of continue to build the library. That way there was always several in the hopper, and then it just, between just some life stuff, and then when you take off weeks for the holidays, you use that library to still post. And so right now it's kind of just, we record when we can, and we put it out. We publish it pretty much the next week. So as far as season 2 is concerned, I mean, he and I haven't really talked through how the end of it, though. We're probably coming up on it.
So that came from me assuming, because you had a season 1 and you have a season 2 now, and usually
Right.
people break at the end of the school year. That was me assuming you guys were going to break for the summer.
You're good.
In no way saying you guys should really wrap this season up. You guys know I'm a huge fan of your guys' material. Love tuning in and getting encouragement
Thank
from
you.
that.
Thank you. Appreciate
But
it.
I wanted to ask you about, not about ending it, about starting it. When you started it, what was kind of the we'll go to the opposite end of it. How'd that thing get started? How'd you guys catch the vision for it, and what spurred you guys to do that?
Oh man, Chad, I feel like we talked about this on an episode. So Chad wasn't actually with me at the beginning. So the Dad
Correct.
Report was, I guess, version 1 was known as the Diaper Report, and it's basically a rebound podcast. I forget where I shared that comment. Kevin, it might have been your episode, bro.
That's ringing a bell, yeah.
Okay. So for your people, right, for you guys listening out there, it's basically I was part of another podcast that was completely unrelated topic. I was part of a disc golf podcast. I'm huge into disc golf, especially the pro scene. I love following the pro tour, and I had some buddies that we started a podcast, and then over the course of some time, they were able, because of some freedoms being single guys, to travel to different events, met some people, and felt like it was best if I was removed from the show to further along whatever agenda and possible partnerships that they would be offered. I will not comment on how that's worked out for them, but I think it's actually been kind of ironic. But with that, I really enjoyed podcasting. I enjoyed looking forward to it each week, developing content, chatting. And so Amelia, my daughter at that time, was like 2 months, 3 maybe. And I was like,
maybe
she was little.
Yeah.
And I was like, what if I do a podcast on like fatherhood and like document my journey into this thing that's like brand new to me? I mean, we're still changing like the nasty black tar diapers, you know?
Oh yeah.
We're not even to the good stuff yet. So I think that was like, Tuesday, the news dropped that I've been kicked out of Parked. And then like by the Monday of the following week, I'd recorded a 12-minute pilot and had published it. Megan drew up the artwork, and then we got rolling. And I basically my vision for it was, regardless if you're a dad or not, you are connected to a father one way or another. And so the idea was definitely more interview driven, bring friends on. And so, I mean, I brought my mom on, I brought my friend Sam, who lived in Jacksonville where I was. He used to live in the apartment like across the road from us, and he and I grew close while we were in Jax. And then I was teaching, brought in some teacher friends, and then Chad and I have been friends for a while, and he'd been listening to the show, and I'd already known I was going to get him on. And then it was after I brought him on, he and I got to talking, and he was like, hey, I'm kind of curious about this thing. And so I think episode 11 or 12 is about the time that we introduced Chad as the co-host, not even new, just as the co-host of the Diaper Report. And then a couple of episodes later, through some advice from our wives, as we were kind of trying to figure out the audience and make it broad enough to where not just dads of newborns would be like listening in, but dads of all ages and realms, and even listeners outside of that. Some of our greatest feedback has actually been from women who don't have kids yet, aren't married, they have a father, but they're listening because their sister was interviewed, something like that. And so that's when we changed and rebranded to the Dad Report. So that was your 30-second flyover.
Nice.
Chad, you got anything you wanna add, bro?
No, so so when Justin got started, it was really about documenting his daughter and kind of his journey through fatherhood, that kind of stuff. And when I started listening and he asked me to come on, honestly, I do it for having, just good quality conversations. I love stories, love telling them, love hearing them. And I got to tell you, like, all of our stuff, most of the posts, any kind of real social media stuff, even getting the videos up, like onto YouTube and stuff, any kind of editing that has to be done, that is all Justin, 100%, right? So he's got a little bit of editing in his background. I have zero. He is much more creative than I am. I'm being honest here when I say that, like, the reason I got into it is because, and this is, we're coming out of, in Florida, coming out of COVID. I'm not sure how some of the rest of the country is doing, but at this point, we're coming out of COVID, right? And just really wanting community, kind of starving for face-to-face kind of stuff. And this was just a great way to just have a little more community, have some really good conversations. And we're talking about fatherhood, which is something that I'm super passionate about. I mean, I am a dad. That's something that's very, very big in my world here. And so, getting to know Justin. So got to know Justin because our wives are work for the same travel agency together, and so that's how we kind of say it
louder.
Colt.
So it's a travel agency called Travelmation. You can look them up, but both of our wives are part of that. So that's kind of how we met, and then just started hanging out. We helped them move in
Yes.
/ move out.
Just move
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, a third floor. Not that I'm
to a
bitter,
second.
but um, but yeah. So that's kind of how and we just kind of took it from there. And I was just like, hey, I know you're looking for a co-host. I'm down. If you're ever interested, if it might work out, let me know. And so he gave it a shot, and here we are.
We're here.
Here you are. So you guys record podcasts about being a dad, and you guys are at different stages of fatherhood.
For sure.
Chad with the older ones, Justin, you're more in my wheelhouse right now with the toddlers in the house.
Yeah.
So you obviously think fatherhood is important and has value. How do you perceive fatherhood, and how do you think that compares to how culture as a whole portrays it? Because I think a lot of times, like, you watch like sitcoms and stuff, and you almost feel like the average dad is equated to like a Homer Simpson,
Oh man.
like,
Yeah.
idiot type person, So how do you view fatherhood and perceive it compared to how
Yeah.
culture portrays it?
Yeah, I think it's something that Chad and I talk about. Like, I remember in the pilot, so that was kind of part of the vision for the diaper report and even the dad report as it grew, is we wanted to help rewrite the narrative of fathers in culture. Because of that stereotype, right? Because of the Peter Griffins, the Homer Simpsons, whether it's the goofy, like, really clumsy, dumb dad, or it's the non-existent one. It's the jokes about, where's your dad? Oh, well, he went for milk 3 years ago. Haven't seen him since.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, my perception of fatherhood is like, it's super important. Not to knock, there's not, and that's, hopefully nobody ever listens in and is like, oh, they're anti-moms. Like, gosh, there are moms who are better dads than some dads. But that also shows you the importance of, like, there is a starvation for healthy fathers in the home. And for me, like, my dad is a really unhealthy dad. My parents divorced when I was in middle school. There was a lot of, like, some background abuse, manipulation, and stuff going on. I've maintained a relationship, but it's been rocky, and it's got some very serious and, like, strict boundaries. And so, like, the way I've had to shape who I am as a man has had to come through, honestly, guys like Chad. Now, Chad wasn't part of that story, but it's finding guys like Chad who were older than I, farther along down the line, and looking for different pieces in them of, like, okay, a good husband does, holds the door open for his wife. He says please, he says thank you, he honors her, right? So I found that in pastors, youth pastors. I've had a few managers at different places I worked where I was like, I respect the way he carried himself. Even if it wasn't towards women, it was just how he carried himself. And so that was kind of some of that heartbeat, is because I think, yeah, culture right now, I think, is really starving. They're starving for healthy fatherhood.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Yeah, I came across a quote today, actually, in a reel that I saw. It was just kind of random. I wasn't really preparing, wasn't looking for anything for this, but it just
Was prepared for this.
I found something that was perfect. And so you ask, you were talking about, like, what do you think about, about fatherhood? And I found a quote that I feel like really sums up, like, what a healthy father is looking for. It says, growing up makes you realize your dad is the only person that wants you to be better than him. And that really read my mail, because I have seen stuff with both of my kids, and I mean, I see bits where my dad did this for me as well. But I'll give you a quick couple stories about my boys. So my older son, he's 17. His name's Pierce, and he is, like, super, like, mechanically minded, very handy. That's not me. Like, if you know me for 5 minutes, you know that that's just, like, I am not the handy one. If there is someone in the Kirk household that is fixing a toilet, it is either going to be my wife or my oldest son. Like, that is the case. Like, no shame. That's what it is. maybe I could after watching about 30 YouTube videos. It's possible. And now I have, anyway, yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and try to prop myself up because no, my wife is much more handy than me, as is my son. And then my younger one, as well, is like super creative, um, uh, very like empathic, and great with piano and singing. Just a talent that he just picked up out of nowhere, really. And I'm like, man, I was like, there's things y'all are both doing that I could not have done at your age. And if I'm honest, in some cases, even now. And to me, that's a win. Like, I'm not jealous of that ability or that talent. It's like, if at the end of the day, you end up better than me, like, I will take credit for that. I did something right, you know?
Success.
And yeah, success, exactly. And so that's a big I started thinking about that today, and I was like, yeah, I've never really said it or thought in those words, but I really think that that is true. And if you aspire to be a healthy dad, I think that is one thing we can all try, is to try to give them a better go at it than we had. And if you see something in your kid that they aspire to, that they come at naturally or through hard work or whatever, and you realize, wait a minute, they can do something that I can't do, like, that's a good thing. And you want that for them, and then you want kind of that to continue on down the line, and this world to be a better place, if they take it a step further than you could. So there's my inspirational quote for the day.
I love that perception, because I think, we hear a lot of times about the dads that try to, in an unhealthy way, live through their kids.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, they couldn't be the
Yeah.
star football players, so they raise their kids and grind them into the ground to make their kid the star quarterback, because
Right.
they couldn't do it themselves. Right? This is like, it almost feels like that same idea of like, I want you to be better than me, but from a healthy angle and not the unhealthy angle. Right? And it's like, yeah, no, but whatever it is that you're passionate about, like, hey, I want you to be better at music than me. I want you to be better at this than me. But also, like, the content of your character, I want you to be better.
100%.
And hopefully you don't have to learn some of the lessons the hard way, the same way that I did, and you can benefit from my mistakes and not have to repeat them yourself. But like, I want you to be better than me, that by the time you're 25, like, hey, you could be a lot further along in life than I was at 25. And I think, like, any healthy dad wants that for their kids. So I love that angle that you're talking about there. The only one in the world that wants you to be better than me.
Yeah, and I read that and I'm like, is there somebody else? There might be, but for dads, it definitely is there. I think we can all identify something in, whether it's one of our parents or someone that we really look up to that helped us along, where they did something that we probably could not have done for ourselves, that gave us a kind of a level up, right? And this is all smelling a whole lot like Jesus, right? Where he did something for us that we couldn't do for
Chad, you start
ourselves.
preaching now.
But yeah, so and even now I'm starting to think about people that have come before me, my dad, my grandparents, and even other mentors and people that have just helped me along, where what they really wanted for me was just the chance for me to kind of improve on whatever it is that they gave to me, and that's huge. So
Well, it might even be legacy, if I can jump in real quick, just to
Yeah.
kind of comment on that quote. Here in that piece, dads want you to be better than they were. I think that's also legacy, knowing that they're leaving behind somebody, right?
yeah, that's a good word for it,
I
for
think
sure.
dads care about legacy, even the ones, Kevin,
Yep.
like you were talking about, who vicariously, right? They're living vicariously through their kid. At the end of the day, there's a part of that dad where it's, even though they wish they could have had all those moments, I think they're still going to be proud if that kid pulls off a championship, because the legacy of that kid now is that championship. Even though it's for the wrong reasons, Even though that kid may have hated every second of it, there's something where I think there's a legacy drive. So that was kind of my thought there.
Yeah, and we've talked about a legacy a lot on Kicks and Minivans, and you know the idea that an inheritance is what you leave to your kids, a legacy is what you leave in them. And
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
good.
hey, the greatest. Honestly, sometimes it feels like the greatest gift I could give the world is my boys. You know, and what I'm building in them, and I feel like I have a little bit of an advantage because I'm the one that gets to stay home with them.
Right.
And me and my wife talk a lot, and it's like, hey, how cool is it that they get to stay home with their dad? Two boys are home with their dad full time, learning. And I try to view it as I'm not raising two boys, I'm raising two men. And what is the legacy, you know, decades down the line that's going to be left there? But I think, you know, shift gears for a second, because I think like, all right, I'm home full time with them. I'm exhausted, bro. Like, I am exhausted. Like, I got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and the 1-year-old is like a little destruction machine. Like, anything he can find that's put together, like, he just wants to take it apart. Anything that's plugged in, he wants to unplug it. Like, he finds joy and value in destroying things, where I feel like my oldest didn't do that. He kind of respected the order of the world, you know? But with that, man, I feel like a lot of times it's like, hey, I'm burning at all ends of the rope, you know, and just exhausted in life. And it feels like, even though I'm doing so much, it feels like I'm still not doing enough. Right? And I don't even work a full-time job, but it still feels like I'm not doing enough. And I think a lot of guys probably relate to that, especially if they're dads, especially if they're married, especially if they're working, and trying to be a good dad, a good employee, a good husband.
Right.
How do you manage the varying levels, and what encouragement would you have to dads that feel like they're doing everything they can and it still feels like it's just not enough?
I think and I don't know if I have answers that are going to help soothe Kevin. Because I'm one of the guys that's working, right? Like, I'm in the office. My wife is at home full time. She's the one who's exhausted. This is a constant conversation. But that also does leave me feeling at times where it's like, yeah, am I doing enough? You know, I think it's patience, though. I think it's realizing you're planting seeds, especially while they're kids, right? So even back to this legacy piece, you may not see. Stay on it. Stay consistent. Whatever that means, whatever that looks like, from discipline to love to care, you know. If you got young kids, get on the floor with them, even though it's tiring, even though you're pulling your hair. My daughter knows how to kick me. That one's kind of funny. Felt good on my back. I'm not gonna lie, that felt like a massage earlier. But I think it's the stay consistent, right? And watch the fruit of your labor when they hit 15, and you're the one they call when they're out at Waffle House, abandoned by their friends, or when that boy breaks up with them. And I was talking because I have a daughter, so these are the things I get to look forward to. Woohoo! But I think that's the key, is like that consistency, and then just patience. Like, even when you're exhausted, still find time and ways to rest, but know that, like, in time, it should produce fruit.
That's good.
Yeah.
If I could add on my little piece to that, just kind of from our experience, one of the things that really helped us out is early on, we when we came to 1122, which is the church we have gone to since Pierce was 3 years old, and we saw early on some parents that had teenage kids. I think they were specifically boys who really enjoyed hanging out with the parents, and you could see it. And we were like, man, when our boys are big, and at this point we only had one, but we're like, man, when our boys are older, like, we want them to be around us, to hang around us when they really no longer have to. And And I think Andy Stanley is pretty famous for saying that. At the time, I didn't even know who that was. So it was kind of like, this is what we want. Like, I really want to raise kids that love the Lord, that love each other, and that really want to hang out with us. Like I said, when they don't have to. And we just started asking people, and they're like, look, we made it a priority, right? Being around them. And for me, what that has looked like is I'm very intentional about not spending an incredible amount of hours at work or even doing something else. We really try to limit ourselves to the hobbies that we do. And it really took some effort when my wife came to me and she said she felt that, the Lord was really speaking to her that she needed to bring our son home and homeschool him. And I was like, oh my goodness, here we go. But it's something we just kind of took a step at a time. And that was very consistent with some of the goals that we had. So like you can only have a certain number of goals for your kids, right? Like they can't be, a mathlete and an athlete and a whatever, right? And do like all of the things. So we were pretty specific in what we were looking for, and because I know what my goals are, when I have an expectation for them for whatever reason that they don't meet, right? It's very easy to get in the weeds. But for us, it's really just been, and it's not like, we've had guests on that like have all their family goals and their vision up on a wall somewhere. Like,
Oh man,
that's not, that it is, and it's super it's
motivating.
super inspiring and motivating, but that's just not how the Kirks do it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So but we were pretty intentional from the beginning of of that, and realizing along the way steps I need to take to make sure that we can realize some of those goals. And I'll be honest, as I have a teenager that graduates high school and starts doing some stuff, and he's doing stuff that it's not bad, but well, that's not what I would do. And I'm like, well, I got to give him some leash, and and it's hard. It really is hard with some of these things, but I really got to say that knowing kind of what we wanted. Okay, when our kids are like 20, 25, 30, like what is it that we really want? And I'm just glad that God put some people in our path to really show us kind of how they did that, and we tried to model it and try to improve on it, that kind of stuff. But that's really something that has worked for us. And I know everybody probably has some different goals and different things that they why they decided to have children and this and that. But that's what it was for us. And it's helped. So it helped us to kind of figure out where to spend our time, right? And so it's not that I want a doctor and a lawyer and a whatever, right? Pro athlete. I want to focus on the character. I want to focus on some of those types of things. And like when you were saying legacy, like that's a huge thing. And so you may think that you can focus on everything as a parent, but you really can't. And so you got to figure out what is it that's really important, and then you got to figure out like what it is that needs to happen to start walking some of those things out.
Yeah, because you can't control if your kid's going to be a doctor or a lawyer, right? But if my kid wants to grow up and be a lawyer, great. But I hope he's a morally great lawyer.
Right.
And that is a part that I can impact and influence.
Yeah.
And so I love how you say it's choosing your priorities, and it's, we had an episode a couple episodes ago where I talked about choose what you suck at, right?
Oh yeah, I heard that. That was good.
Choosing your priorities is simply saying like, hey, I want to be good at this, so I'm going to suck at this because this is not as important as what I'm choosing to be good at. And so I love, that's a great that's a great reminder for me too, just of hey, you know what? Yeah, I am making intentional decisions on things that I want to be good at right now as a dad, as a husband. And so yeah, I'm gonna suck at some stuff. And I
Yeah.
need to keep, even though I taught on that, I need to keep reminding myself of that when it feels like I'm not doing enough. It's like, no, I'm choosing to not do a lot in that area of life right now.
Yeah.
So
And I just had a really cool example come to mind. So this hat I'm wearing, this is a U.S. soccer hat, right? Super into soccer, like we were a big soccer family growing up, and I was super excited for my boys to play soccer, and they did, and they hated it. And then, and also as a teenager, I was a big surfer. Not a big surfer. I mean, I did it very casually, but, and I was no good at it, but I really enjoyed it. And so I tried to get them into that, and it just really hasn't been their thing either. And so, I learned early on, like, hey, you know what? Maybe it's not about what I want out of them. Maybe it's like, maybe I just need to champion kind of what they're doing. And that is another thing that has really helped us in growing the relationship, because if they see us just cheering them on, like, that takes the pressure off. And I think we all know what it's like to try to live up to, and try always being, trying to impress, mom, dad, whatever. And I don't know, that's something pretty simple. I think goes along with that. Just makes it kind of takes the pressure off and just lets them know that, hey, you're there. So
yeah.
Yep.
And that's so important to just be there. Like, and I'm not a soccer guy. I played 1 year in high school. We were terrible. We went 0-9. I hated it. It's my only soccer experience ever. I'm a basketball guy. I would love for my boys to grow up and love basketball as much as I do. But
Sure.
ultimately, I want them to grow up and love something as much as I love basketball. And I want to cheer them on. I hope it's not soccer. No offense, Chad. Like, I hope it's not soccer. But if it is, dude, I'm going to be there front row every game.
I bet you'd learn.
That's it.
That's
it.
I would figure out a way to love it.
Oh yeah.
I would figure out a way to love it, But yeah, it's like, hey, learning to love and cheer your kids on, and when we had Anthony on for a past episode, he talked about in the Baptist church they were raised with amen corners, where it's like they know like amen corners, and I've never heard of it before. I don't know if it's a black church thing or something, but like
I grew up Baptist, but I never heard of the Amen Corner.
yeah, me neither. So I'm like, well, but he said they have an amen corner, and it's like, hey, they have a corner of people cheering them on in whatever they do in life, and I just think that's like a beautiful picture of that.
That's cool.
Love that.
It takes a tribe, but it's like, hey, there's a tribe of people cheering you on, and mom and dad are leading the pack on that.
That's good.
Yeah.
And so speaking of that, and Chad, you alluded a little bit to this, not alluded to it, but kind of when you said, your wife came to you and said like, hey, I think we should homeschool. How does your relationship with your wife impact the way that you parent? Because Chad, you've been married 21 years, you said, and Justin 3.5. So how does your relationship with your wife impact the way that you parent your kids?
Justin, I feel like I've been talking. Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Oh, you're the veteran. You do it.
Okay.
I don't know from you.
So this is something that I will say probably not all of the couples out there will get behind, but I'm gonna say it anyway.
All right.
Have more sex. No, I'm
So
sorry.
that is a given. That is a given, and that's 2 thumbs up on that as well.
Kevin.
Not what I was gonna say, but I'm all for it. And I will not mention. Never mind. I'm not even gonna go there. What happened before we started recording? But anyway, okay. So, all right, reel me back in. So one thing that he's just smiling off camera. I love it. So one thing that we are big on, and we tell people this, we even tell our boys this, kind of really as a motivation for them, and that is that, hey, like, and I hear her voice saying this to the boys all, and it's amazing. She says, "Listen, I was with your dad before you were here, and eventually you were going to get to an age where you're going to move out. You're going to start a life of your own." And it's not because I'm kicking you out the door. It's because it's what you're going to want to do. And, you are going to go pursue what God has for you. You're going to start a life of your own, have a family of your own, all these kinds of things. But I was with him before you were here, and I'm going to be with him after you were gone. And so he is she says this about me. I say this about her, but she said this just the other day. She's like, you are my favorite person, and, I love you more than anyone else. And the kid comes to you and says, even more than me, mommy? And you say, yes. Right? Age appropriate, of course. But that actually opens up the door for the conversation to have that. To be like, look, I love you, but my job is to raise you and to allow you to go out and do what you have to do. And granted, like, you're probably not going to say that to your 1-year-old or your 3-year-old. Like, I get that, but that is an
Justin's like, I'm right.
I showed, this is a total bunny trail. I showed Amelia the Iron Giant.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, I'm super impressed. She sat through the entire thing. She's
that's good.
23 months old, just about, sat through the entire movie. We get to the part where if you've never seen this movie, I'm spoiling it for you. And also, what kind of childhood did you have? So
wait,
never seen it.
stop.
I've never
Pause
seen it.
now. Pause now. Go watch the Iron Giant.
yeah,
Okay, we're back.
Come back. Yeah. Okay. So
Can I pause this interview because I've never seen it? So
Kevin.
I know. I'm never getting invited on the Dad Report again.
Oh, that's not true. We'll have a watch party.
Yeah.
Kevin, I'm
All right,
spoiling it.
spoil
Bro.
it. Spoil it for me.
If you need to walk away, walk away.
No,
Yeah.
so the giant, he's out of here. So
This
the
is my
giant-
podcast. I have to be here.
That's right. The giant at the end of the movie, to save this town and especially this kid that he's befriended, and it's a whole thing. Flies up and he takes on a nuclear warhead and like redirects it into space, and he dies with it. And,
Iron Man and Avengers, basically.
Basically.
Exactly.
Except no return.
Except Iron Man lived.
Yeah. So the giant, and yeah, I'll leave it there. So the giant gets up there, and there's this big explosion and all this, and I mean, I'm crying at this point. I'm a grown man. I won't lie. I cry. Like, Iron Giant makes me cry. It's that good. And Amelia looks at me and she goes, "Where go? Where go?" So, yeah, I've already introduced Amelia to trauma, so I probably would be one to look at her and be like, "Yeah, I love Mama more than you. I love you a lot, but I love Mama more." Because then we got movie ended, and she goes, "More, and I'm like, "Yeah." And we watched Nemo the other day, so I'm just paying for all kinds of therapy at this point.
And what do we say as dads when our children say something like that? Where go? What do we say?
I said he went away.
No, you say, go ask your mother. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, no,
kidding.
She wasn't.
Yeah. But so just to kind of finish up my story, the idea is that, like, we are partners. We're in this together, and we are together, right, till death do us part. And we're going to be involved in our kids' lives as well. But, like, that is the number one human relationship that I have. And I will say, like, if the two of us are on the same page about something, I feel like we can handle just about anything. And we get, we try to stay there, right? Try to stay on the same page about stuff. But yeah, it's like, am I a dad to my kids? Yes. But, like, in my mind, I can't really separate that from me being a husband to my wife. Like, those things are just so connected. And, so, does one impact the other? 100%, absolutely. And, My heart goes out to anyone who is parenting on their own without having without having a spouse there to
Yeah.
to shoulder that burden. That's a very difficult thing. We have some friends that do it, and it's it's tough. So I guess, long story short, yeah, like I have to, I lean on her, she leans on me, and we do this thing together, and we try to, as best we can, stay on the same page and realize that, again, hard truth, we were together before y'all were here, and event eventually someday, and this is the best possible outcome. You grow up, you go on and start your own life, and we will be here, and we'll be there to cheer you on all along the way, and and all of that. But that's kind of the, we are one flesh. There's no other relationship in our human existence where we are called to that
Yeah.
that standard of unity and everything else. So
Well, and I love what you said. If you guys are on the same page, there's nothing you can't do.
yeah.
Right. And it's just like, man, having a united front when it comes to your kids and how you parent is so important, man, because it's like my 3-year-old, it's like he's starting to get into that persistent negotiating phase. And it's like,
Mm-mm.
He'll ask mom something and she'll say no. And then he'll come to me and ask me, and I'll be like, well, did you ask mommy? And he's like, I'll like, well, whatever mom said, it's like, it's not even a question. It's like, you already asked her.
Yeah.
Whatever she said
Yeah.
is it, even if I'm like, oh yeah, he should have been able to do that. It's like, nope, she already said no, so that's that, Justin, you got anything to add to that?
Man, I don't know if I have anything like Chad's got the wisdom. Like I said, he's the vet.
So
I feel
much,
like,
dude.
I feel like
So
having
much wisdom.
having an almost 2-year-old. Like I'm not in a negotiating phase yet. Like Amelia doesn't know how to do that. She's still, growing the rest of her teeth. So parenting right now, I think one of the thoughts I had was like the word husband, right? That comes from like husbandry. That's husbandry it's a gardening term. And I think the way you take care of your wife is going to bleed into how to take care of your kids. And the other thing too is the kids notice. The way you treat mama is going to impact how they treat future relationships, as well as how they treat. I mean, if I treat Megan like a piece of crap, Amelia's going to feel entitled to treat Megan like a piece of crap. So, as of right now,
Absolutely.
with parenting, it's am I setting? I want to be slow to anger, or slow to even frustration. Like I get it, toddlers, frustrating. That constant like, mama, mom. Like we were joking at dinner, so we're eating, and Megan's had it with Amelia today, and because all Amelia's done is said her name all day, and I forget what happened. Oh, Megan's sitting across the table from me, and Amelia's right there, and Megan goes, "I wonder what goes through your head all day." And I said, "I'll tell you what goes through your head all day." And I started saying the repeat words in an obnoxious, out loud, like being funny, and Amelia's laughing the entire time. Megan and I are both laughing, right? But like I think right now it's just how can I help be slow? How can I be slow to frustration with Amelia? How can I best support my wife? Listening to her frustration, even though I may not agree with it, even though it might be like, man, you're getting precious moments. Like I remember getting that question all the time when we first had her, and Megan was stay at home, and I was teaching, and we were having guests on the show, and they're like, well, don't you wish like you could be home all the time? And I'm like, I mean, that would be what an awesome world. And then of course Kevin, like you're living that, and you're like, bro, I'm done. Like I love it, but I'm so tired, right? And you got 2 of them, so I can't even like one of them is enough,
Yeah.
right? Like I love my Fridays with Amelia. So for me, it's how do I take care of my garden, as it were? How do I? And I agree with Chad, everything he said. Like that's one thing I told Megan from the jump was like, listen, we got to make sure that we come first, and that conversation has taken different flows and turns just because of Megan's background and some of the way her parents prioritize the kids when they maybe shouldn't have. But I've had to kind of put my flag in the ground and be like, Amelia's important while she's little, yes, but we are more important always. Because just like Chad said, at the end of it, when Amelia's 18 and gone, I got to live with Megan. I married her. That's lifelong. That's covenant. And so if I don't know her, that makes for a real awkward, late 40s, early 50s when you're like, hey, so, hey, good looking.
So what do we do now?
Yeah, exactly. Travel? So that's kind of, like, I guess, some of my thoughts was just that husbandry term, like leading Megan well, loving Megan well, supporting Megan well, listening to her frustration.
Yeah.
When she needs a break, being like, hey, I've got to go to Target. Like, go do your Target therapy. That's real. She'll go for an, and that's fine. One day she went and sat in the Whataburger line for an hour. We just had one open up over here. That's why the line's an hour. And she told me she sat there with the windows down and read a book, turned the music off. Like, but it was enough for her to kind of check out for a moment and reset. And so it's stuff like that right now, and allowing Amelia, like, really trying to show Amelia, like, I love and care for Amelia and I like having fun with her, but also, like, when Amelia's being a bit much, like, starting some of those small disciplines, whether it's taking a toy away, putting her in, like, I'm a bit more strict, like, I'm willing to throw her in her room and close the door and be like, she'll be okay for 15 minutes by herself. Like, it's okay. Set some boundaries. But, I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts. I don't know if that's helpful or not. Again, I'm rookie dad over here, rookie husband.
Dude, we just had an etymology on the word husband. I'd never heard that before.
I mean,
Me
I
neither.
assume
That's
husband
crazy.
comes from husbandry. So
Makes
that
sense.
That is a gardening term.
Seems like it fits. Yeah, and we that's a hot topic right now. Not husbandry.
How those tomatoes growing?
The idea of, like, does your spouse or your kids come first? It's such a hot topic. We're gonna do, like, a full length episode on that.
That's cool.
And I touched on it a little bit in the episode before this one, which, as of when we're recording this, comes out tomorrow morning. So if you haven't listened to episode 14, go listen to that, because we talk about this a little. But it's like, hey, if you don't have your wife first, that's when I think that roommate phase of marriage starts kicking in. And then that absolutely bleeds into how you parent, because, well, you and your wife, you're not on the same page. And so, like, how you parent just becomes one more thing that you fight about.
Mm-hmm.
Because your relationship with your spouse isn't your priority. And so it's like, hey, if you are on, me putting my wife first makes me a better dad to my kids. And me putting God first makes me a better husband to my wife. Me putting my wife above my kids makes me a better dad to my kids. And so I'm on the same page as you guys. I know not everyone will agree with that, like you said, Chad, but, like, hey, I think it is for the benefit of my kids and of myself and of my wife that my wife comes before my kids. So since I'm talking about it, how does faith, right? We're all Christians. We're all followers of Jesus here. And I know not everyone listening might be, and that's cool. We're just glad you're rocking with us.
Absolutely.
For you guys, how does your faith impact the way that you parent? Because it might lead you to do things differently than someone that's not. Obviously, it's like, all right, going to church, that's different than if you are in a family of faith, right? But, like, how else does your faith impact the way that you raise your kids?
Man, that's I think for me it drives mission. Holding Amelia, so they tell you, right, like, you will never know true, like, the way you've never experienced love until you hold your baby for your first time, right? Till you hold them and you're like, oh, whoa. I think for me what was wild was that was the first time I was like, this is how God loves me. This is how God sees me. And that revelation, recognition, whatever, perception even maybe of God's love was like, it was wild. I wish I'd stayed in it, I wish like, this is the thing about being human, is like, you have to constantly remind yourself and take yourself back to faith. If you're a person of faith, you're listening to this, is like, because you'll have those moments where you're like, wow, that was cool. But man, you got to wake up, and his mercies are new every morning. That means you also got to dig back into your faith every morning. So I think for me, like, faith drives mission. Like, when it comes to that legacy piece that we were talking about, like, man, one of the things I try to do, and I've fallen off a little bit. I did it tonight, but like when I put $1 million down, when it's my night to put $1 million down, my wife's coming in the door, so hey. But like one of the things that like I do, ooh, she's got cookie. Whoa. Hello, guest listeners of Kicks and Minivans. They're not guest listeners. I am. I'm the guest. Anywho, so I have cookies in front of me now, so it's not be distracted.
Time to wrap this sucker up, you know?
So
he's like, Chad, your turn. Chad, your turn.
Right. No, but it's like I try to pray over my daughter, and one of the things like I really believe in is generational blessings. One of the things that I heard, so I attended 1122 as well while my wife and I lived in Jacksonville, and Chad's family attended there as well. And one of the things I thought was cool is a lot of pastors, a lot of preachers, whatever, will talk about generational curses, right? Like it's littered throughout Old Testament. Abraham kind of being famous for like when is Abraham or Jacob, one of them, he kind of is like, this is the only blessing I have for you, and it's like more of a curse than a blessing. Like kind of sucked. And Pastor Joby would always talk about it. He's like, dads, especially fathers, you are in charge of changing the narrative. There might be generational curses in your family. You can be the end of it, and you can start passing along some generational blessings. And I know, like, in my family coming down through my line, like, my dad struggled with lust, alcohol abuse, pornography. He's on, like, his third whatever. I think they're married, but we're not sure. No one ever officially confirmed it for us. And then his dad before that, I heard through my uncle, who also struggled with some abuse, some lust, pornography. Now he's a missionary in Peru. Like God, like the gospel is beautiful, right? Radically changes his life.
Wow.
But apparently my grandpa Killillay, who I never met, same deal. So there's a generational curse here. And now it helps explain some of my tendencies, temptations, struggles, issues, and challenges. So for me, it's like, I want to speak generational blessings though. Like if I know anger is a thing, let's work towards patience. Let's work towards blessing. And so like, man, I think one of the ways I started that, at least while Amelia is little, is just that routine of like, I pray over her. So like tonight she starts pointing at her crib. She wants to go down. I'm like, well, hey, can I pray over you first? Which I never really asked for that before. You just do it. I think I can't tell it was dark, but she kind of like did her like yes sign. But I prayed, like, dude, I pray some crazy prayers over that kid. Like I prayed that she would be a warrior for the kingdom. Like I'm praying like that she would be a light for the gospel in a dark generation. Because the kids she's about to grow up with are being raised in this generation of like transgenderism. It's about to be wild, dude. This next generation is going to be something else. And I think right now with parenting, like my faith helps drive mission. Like if there's anything that I leave with her as a legacy, I hope and pray that it's Jesus. I hope that like when I'm dead and gone, that if they ask her like, hey, what was the one thing from your dad that like just stood out to you? I hope she's just like, Jesus. Like that's one. And I'm not saying I want to force it on her. I don't want to shove the Bible down her throat. It's going to be present. My wife and I read our devos every morning at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee. Someday that little girl's going to be old enough to sit and observe that, to witness that. And I just hope that like it gets on her, it gets all over. I hope that the gospel is present. And like for me, that's like if there's anything that she walks away with, because I am her primary disciple maker in the house. The parent is the primary disciple maker. And so I don't know, for me with parenting, like faith drives mission. And I just hope that and I'm not saying I'm perfect, man. Dude, I struggle. I suck. I'm selfish, right? I'm not even Calvinist, but total depravity. Like it's real, man. But I'm trying. Like I'm trying to pray over her. I'm trying, grow closer to Jesus, and hopefully she follows me as I follow Jesus, to quote kind of how Paul says it in Philippians. So I don't know, that might have not even been a great answer, but that's kind of my life.
No, it absolutely is. And just encouragement to you and anyone else with 1-year-old or a 2-year-old, as someone with a 3-year-old, which isn't that much older, but it actually developmentally is, like, they're observing and they're learning even at that age. And you're about to enter the age where it starts getting repeated. And that's like a beautiful part. That's a beautiful part of, watching Jace be a 3-year-old. It's like I post all these toddlers are savage videos. I'm about to start posting these toddlers are sweet videos because like this kid is like the sweetest little angel on the planet, and then the next second he's a savage. You know, it's like I don't know how they flip so fast, but it's like when he's sweet, it's like I see him repeating back things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I see that. I'm like, that's something my wife does. Or that's something that I do, you know, and he repeats it back. And so it's like he's learning, he's observing, and you're about to enter the age where it's like she really starts repeating, man, and it's so much fun to watch. And so I know, but the faith drives mission, man. I agree with that. I don't know if I've thought about it in that language before, but absolutely agree with it and love that. Chad, what would you add to that?
My goodness, you know, honestly, I don't know if there's a whole lot to add to that. I mean, everything Justin was saying, I'm like, yes, yes. And I'm looking back to when, you know, I was gonna have kids, you know, to when I had little kids, and as they're growing up, um, the thing that, you know, in my early Christian days, it was like, you know, the whole concept of just having fire insurance, right? Where it's like, okay, I'm not going to hell anymore. Um, and that for sure is a huge blessing. However,
It's a big perk.
Jesus,
That's a big perk.
yeah, big perk.
Yeah.
But
But
you
it's not
know,
every day.
Jesus has so much more for us. One of the things that Jesus talked about a whole lot was his kingdom coming here. So it's not the you go to heaven when you die. It's no. You can live as part of the kingdom of God now. And I want my kids to do all the things. I want them to pray. I want them to read their Bible. I want them to go to church every week. Like I don't want them to know a day when they weren't a follower of Jesus. Um, but it's really that it's trying to model for them and royally screwing it up just about every day, right? But trying to model for them that, right? So when you know, me and my wife, when one of us is just not kind to the other one, and we have to come back and say, listen, I just thought about what I said. That was wrong. I'm sorry. You know, can you please forgive me? And they see that. Uh, my kids, they are like, if you apologize for something, they will forgive you almost on the spot. Like me, I might need a minute. Like, just being honest, and I'll say like, you know, and if you ask me, oh yeah, absolutely. Well then, Daddy, why is your face still red? You know, but it's like, hey, you know, and I've had this conversation. Like, look, you know, I forgive you, but I'm just waiting on my feelings to catch up, right? Which may not be the best thing, but that's just kind of where I am sometimes. And but you know, it's just trying to live that as authentic as possible. And I don't know, like I find that when we model that, um, it really pays dividends. I remember, like, you know, my my parents did, you know, all the things, you know, trying to keep us in church and all these kind of things, right? But you know, the things that I really remember is I remember walking by the living room and seeing my dad, uh, you know, reclining on the couch with his Bible open. I remember conversations when he explained to me what tithing is and why it's important to give financially, and you know, all and these kinds of conversations that I would love to say, you know, that he had planned these things, but a lot of times I'm like, hey, what are you reading? And he tell me, and you know, it just go. And some of those just unplanned
Yeah.
things where I just get to see the authenticity that he's living out his faith. um that really made an impact on me, and so I tried to live in that way towards my boys too. And honestly, like, this is going back to another one of our pastor's things, but where he's like, look, I cannot force my kid into the kingdom, but I can set up some dates. You know what I mean? And the thought there is just that, like, if I'm gonna if I'm gonna take my kid to the student ministry every week, whatever I need to do to make sure that he's there. Because I know there's going to be people there that love him, that are praying for him, that are looking out for him, that are speaking truth to him. Like, I'm going to do whatever. If that means I need to end work 30 minutes early and start 30 minutes early the next day or whatever that is, I'm going to do that thing. And so that's my thing, is anytime I can get my kids into one of those. And even now, I mean, yeah, I have a 17-year-old. Yeah, he can drive. Yeah, he's becoming independent. But anything I can do within my control to give them one of those experiences, putting them in that situation, like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And there's parts of me that wish I would have, done some things differently in the earlier years, but I think largely that remains unchanged. Just the more kinds of those situations that I can get them in, where it allows them to, to learn about faith, to walk out their faith, all those kinds of things. Like, that's what I'm for. So, and that's what we're spending our time doing. So,
Well, and I love what you said. It reminded me of the quote, if you stay ready, you don't got to get ready.
I haven't heard that before. That's good.
I think sometimes in fatherhood, we can think of just these mountaintop experiences of, like, all right, having, the baby being born and the baby walking, having the talk, like you guys just did on your last episode, right? Like, we could think of, like, fatherhood as, like, these big giant moments where it's, and so often it's like, no, the biggest impacts can be you're just sitting there reading, they come up and ask you, what are you reading? And it's like, you don't have time to get ready for that. So if you stay ready, and if it's a part of you, if it's an authentic, real, genuine part of you, it's like, you don't have to get ready. It's an overflow.
First Peter, be prepared in season and out of season.
In season, out of season. Exactly, man. And so I love that perspective, man. Faith drives mission, and staying ready, staying authentic, and having that be a part of it. Well, guys, dude, it has been such a blast having you guys jump in here, man. I had a blast coming on the Dad Report, and so good to have you guys join Kicks and Minivans. Before you sign off, if you could give any encouragement or advice, any final words to dads out there, give you guys a chance if you had anything else to throw at dads.
Oh, man. Hug your wife. Tell her thank you.
That's solid advice.
Yeah, man, I'll second that, and I'll also say, like, one thing I'm learning as my kids are getting older is sometimes I gotta fight for for that relationship, and some things get easier as they get older, some things get harder, and commanding their attention is something that gets harder. And this is one thing that my wife is so much better than I am at, is just grit and just getting after it. Sometimes it's easy, and sometimes, like, you just gotta kind of you just gotta go for it and fight, because they are 100% of the time worth the fight. And it's not always that way. Like, not everything is a battle, not everything is a war. But sometimes I gotta kind of give myself a pep talk and be like, hey, like, not gonna let somebody else do this job. Like, let's go get after this thing. So yeah, the culture is sometimes against you, but just God has put you in a place to be shepherding whoever it is, right? However many kids you have. And so just he will equip you. So just go after it and enjoy it, right?
Yeah. And I think, Kevin, my final thought, and to dig into it, you probably will in a future episode, but just get into community.
Yes.
Find a community,
Yes.
whether it's other guys or it's other dads specifically, but have people. Your wife is important, but also have, some accountability buddies in the background that you're doing life with.
So wait, what?
I caught that.
Thank you. You take accountability, you take buddy, and you smash it, and it makes accountability buddy. And that's how I teach my students about accountability partners.
Okay. That sounds like something that'd be at like a Build-A-Bear place or something.
Wow.
Accountability buddy. I like it.
That, bro.
I like it.
I feel like I was gonna give permission for one dad joke to be shared, but I feel like that kind of like took the place of it. Accountability. And the Build-A-Bear. Build-A-Bear reference.
Comment.
Yeah.
The fact that Chad's referencing Build-A-Bear.
Daddy, what's a shopping mall? Okay. I think we're done.
All right. Well, guys, so great to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
It's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. It's been great.
The drop for this week, I don't even feel like I need to say much more after what Chad and Justin just left us with, man. But be encouraged. Be encouraged in what you're doing. You are doing one of the most important things in the entire world, playing the role of a father to your kids. Continue to put your wife first. Continue to prioritize the health of yourself and your kids for the sake of your family. The healthier you are and the healthier your marriage is, the better dad you're going to be, the better you're going to be for your kids. Keep it up. Y'all are doing great. If there's any way we can help you, man, send us a DM. Again, head over to n8leader.com. Book a free consultation with Nate if that's something that could be of value to you. But hey, however we can help, man, we want to help you win in marriage and parenting. Cheering for y'all. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. This is Kicks Minivans.